here, and it's time for more Otaku Evolution. Be sure to like, subscribe, and contribute to my Patreon. So, Ghost in the Shell. I've reviewed standalone complex before, including the disappointing Solid State Society, but nothing can prepare me for watching Ghost in the Shell Arise. Nothing but a full frontal lobotomy, that is. Arise is confusing, folks. Ghost in the Shell has always been known for being dense, if not convoluted, and every new chapter to the franchise requires repeated viewings to get the whole picture. Just look at the mindfuck that was Innocence. Even the more politically tinged standalone complex, which had time to breathe its storylines, could be a little difficult to summarize plot-wise. But the 5-episode and 1 movie Ghost in the Shell Arise series certainly takes the cake for painfully impenetrable plotlines. Arise broadly tells the stories of how Section 9, the elite team that works for the Japanese government that is staffed by ex-military cyborgs, came to be. Or rather, it shows us how Motoko Kusanagi and her group joined Section 9, which was already technically in existence. It's not a proper prequel to standalone complex. There's some details from characters' past that just don't line up with SAC's backgrounds, but you can treat it as a prequel if you just squint hard enough. Our main character, Kusanagi, starts off as a member of the military intelligence outfit Unit 501. Her body was a full cyborg from birth and technically belonged to the military until it could be paid off. The first episode, or Border, deals with her separating herself from Unit 501 after investigating the death of its leader and her mentor, Colonel Mamoru. During this investigation and subsequent missions, she comes across her future teammates like Bato, Togasa, Paz, Ishikawa, Boma, and Saito. Together, they try to uncover the secret behind the false memory virus Firestarter, as they come across it in several incidents.
Do we know what organization developed the virus?
Not a clue. All we know is that a foreign broker brought it to Japan. Details are scarce, but it seems to be called Firestarter.
Then do you think it was a foreign power that cooked up the scandal in the first place?
The whole global military-industrial complex is our enemy.
You can't delete the fake memory of the refugees yet, but we'll figure it out somehow.
I'll keep it. Fake or not, it's the only memory I've got that doesn't make me feel like a damned attack dog.
And the Firestarter virus?
Couldn't pin down the trigger, but I caught a pretty obvious red flag when I analyzed the events. Even though Section 9 had domination over the building where the virus showed up, we couldn't find the infection route.
Now, as I said, there are 5 episodes, or borders, of the OVAs. Each one has, at least nominally, a fairly contained storyline, but adds a bit to the overall one involving the false memory virus. The last 3 episodes are particularly connected, with the final one being kind of a lead-up to the movie finale. Interestingly, however, the first 4 episodes are the only ones originally available in straight OVA format. The final episode, Pyrophoric Cult, was broadcast as a part of a television airing of the OVA called Alternative Architecture, and split into 2 parts. To this day, there is no North American disc release of Pyrophoric Cult, though you can watch the subtitled-only version on Crunchyroll. The previous 4 episodes had all been dubbed into English by Funimation and released on disc, and considering the movie kind of assumes you've seen episode 5, it's a bit of a jump from the available episodes to the movie, because as I said, Pyrophoric Cult acts as a lead-up to the movie. It's not impossible to understand the movie without it, but it certainly helps to tie up some loose ends. In the movie, they actually called it Ghost in the Shell, the new movie. Now that takes some balls. Hey, wanna watch the Ghost in the Shell movie? Which movie? The new movie. There's a new movie? No, it came out in 2015. It's just called the new movie. That's even worse than the motion picture. They just plain didn't give a crap, now did they? If your movie is part of a pre-existing franchise where it could be confused for another movie, you may want to, give it an actual title, not just the new movie. Given how convoluted the movie is, they could have named it The New Headache. Throughout the OVA, Kusanagi and her allies had to deal with corrupt military outfits, war criminals, rogue AIs, freedom fighter radicals, cyborgs with multiple personalities, numerous traps, escort missions, and bureaucratic obstruction. In the movie, the Prime Minister is killed in a terrorist bombing that turns out to be connected to various infighting factions of weapons dealers and politicians vying for technological supremacy in a post-World War environment. Kusanagi and her team finally come in contact with the brokers who brought Firestarter into the country, and perhaps even the creator of the virus itself, as they resolve to stay a cohesive unit with their own independent budget and missions. Seems interesting enough, right? But my big issue is that it's nearly impossible to keep up with all the different factions and their separate motivations throughout the OVA episodes, never mind the truly hampered by complexity movie that finishes the tale.
A surveillance camera?
It's military, but it's got a limited range of transmission. I tested it with some white noise.
It's only got a cheap AI encryption, too. Here, I'll connect to our Peeping Tom's net now.
A major theme of Ghost in the Shell Arise is how memories make us who we are. Kusanagi spends a lot of the first episode infected by the false memory virus, causing her to be erratic and incensed when she discovers the truth. Colonel Soga and his men were also infected by Firestarter, believing they were being persecuted unfairly by the system. But sometimes forgetting things allows us to move on, with the Major preferring to keep her past as Scylla behind her, and the Prime Minister's son desperate to forget he was the one who handed his father the explosive suitcase that killed him. Whether good or bad, it's our memories of our experiences that form our identities. I just wish the characterization of the Major and her allies weren't so thin at times. I mean, it's not too unlike Standalone Complex, where only a few personalities like Kusanagi, Bato, and Togusa really stand out from the field. But even there, I feel like the interactions and bonds are a tad meager, to where I hardly feel that the team is a hard-won cohesive unit through thick and thin. I think the only character that sticks out over the obvious ones is Saito, now depicted as kind of a lazy gambling addict who holds grudges. He can usually be found sleeping in the background. Fans of Standalone Complex might find this characterization blasphemous, but honestly, it's the only thing keeping him interesting enough to mention. Paz, Ishikawa, and Boma are practically just there. Fortunately, while working in concert, they do perform convincingly enough to at least see them as a real team, even if it is a bit thin.
Major! Saito!
I have so many burning questions about basic plot elements that just don't make any sense to me. The worst thing about Arise is having to take notes in a desperate attempt to keep up with all the different groups and motivations at the same time as all the technobabble, and often losing the definition of one or the other in the process. So naturally, this next part is going to be a lot of essential questions that will spoil things about the series and the movie. You might want to fast forward through the video to the end. I'll give a bit of a summary of my experience with Arise to wrap things up there. Killed Colonel Mamoru? Was it Sadamoto's people or did Unit 501? How did Colonel Soga and his men originally get infected with Firestarter? What was the point of the character of VV? Why was Karutsu contacting Akira Hose? Why was he in business with Colonel Hozumi, and what was Hozumi up to? Why did Kusanagi kill Dr. Theed at the beginning of Border 4? What was the point of Emma and Brenda Jr. controlling Togusa? How is pitting government officials against each other going to benefit Karutsu's plan of evolving people? And most importantly, how the shit did Karutsu do all these things she did in Arise? We're supposed to believe that the little girl at the orphanage was Karutsu this whole time? You mean this military officer's entire career was just the hobby of a little disabled cyborg girl at an orphanage? And if Kusanagi knew her as a child, why did she forget all about her?
It just raises too many questions.
My best understanding of the movie is that cyber brains and prosthetics are making such a rapid development that soon it will hit a dead end, and the current models will be impossible to upgrade in the next generation, as the next gen after that will come too soon after. Old types of cyborg people left behind, such as the children at the orphanage, will not have parts designed to ever grow with them and will be left behind. Therefore, Karutsu and Ambassador Wong were hoping to get the PM to deliberately delay technological development for a while, with regulations that would enable people to upgrade at a comfortable pace, all the while Karutsu could prepare her third world, i.e. have the new generation's minds be in the net, so that they could ever upgrade to the next generation of technology. Ambassador Wong came to the PM with a plan to assassinate Lee of the East Asian Federation, who was trying to engineer a monopoly on the market and manipulate government and military officials, but Lee used Firestarter to assassinate the PM and Wong in one explosion. Karutsu gave both factions Firestarter to attract the attention of Kusanagi in a group and disrupt Lee's work so she can enact the next phase of the plan. Karutsu was also manipulating Unit 501 to distract the Major until she could carry out her scheme. But it still stretches credulity to tell us that Karutsu did this all from a garden at an orphanage.
Are you willing to sell your ghost for the sake of some uniform standard? Sacrificing those less fortunate than you are? You've all been given cyber brains and ghosts to guide your actions. If you want something from others, you have to find something to offer in return. Build your future.
Well, that was fun. It's fun speculating, isn't it? Especially when an anime provides no fucking answers of its own. Good times. Ghost in the Shell arises, well, it's a mixed bag. I do like seeing Motoko Kusanagi and a group take on various criminals and corrupt officials with pluck and aplomb, and technobabble. There's a certain magic to it all, seeing these characters deal with a scary futuristic society as if it's just in a day's work. And there's a little thematic meat to chew on here, too. Though far less than in Standalone Complex. Arise is, on the whole, kind of cool. It's just nigh incomprehensible when it should be more clear. I have to take a couple of aspirin every time I watch, and then down it with some scotch. You know what? I'm turning 40 in a few days, and I'm too busy having an existential crisis to deal with hard-to-chew anime. I'm pretty sure this one is out of print anyway. Go watch it on Crunchyroll or something. In the meantime, I'll be thinking up my next video. Yep. Until then, see ya!
Did you hear what Mr. Vato said, Major? He wants to modify us so people can ride inside. I'm so excited! That's super cool, right? Don't you think?
What I think is that you're annoying.